never believed in the kind of love that endows you until the night Helena Duarte looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't know how to want something this much and be this terrified at the same time." I was 29 years old, working alone in a converted manor in Alfama, surrounded by centuries-old documents that whispered stories of people long dead. I thought I understood preservation, keeping beautiful things safe behind glass, never letting them touch you back. I thought I had built the perfect life, quiet, controlled, untouchable. Then Helena arrived. She wasn't supposed to be there that night. Neither was I, really. But sometimes the universe conspires to put two people in the same room at the exact moment. They're both finally ready to stop hiding. What happened between us over those next few months changed everything I thought I knew about desire, about power, about what it means to truly see another woman and let yourself be seen in return. While I tell you this story full of emotions, click the bell to subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Clara Mendez, and I've spent most of my adult life with my hands on things that can't hurt me: paper, parchment. Oil paintings so old they crumble if you breathe on them wrong. There's something comforting about restoration work. You can see exactly what's damaged. You have the tools to fix it, and when you're done, you can walk away clean. I'd been doing this for 7 years when I got the call about the Alfama project. The Cultural Center Snow Vicente had acquired a private collection: letters, manuscripts, and paintings from a 19th century Portuguese family with connections across Europe. The collection needed complete assessment and restoration before their gala opening in 4 months. It was temporary contract work, well paid, and most importantly, I'd be working alone in the manor's east wing, mostly after hours when the building was closed to the public. Perfect. I'd learned to prefer solitude after my last position ended badly. There'd been a senior conservator there, someone I'd trusted. Someone who'd used that trust in ways that still made my chest tight when I thought about it. The way she'd corner me in the supply room. The way she'd frame her requests as mentorship. The way I'd convinced myself it was mutual until I tried to say no. So yes, alone was good. Alone was safe. The manor itself was stunning, all vaulted ceilings and Moorish tiles, with narrow windows that caught the light at odd angles throughout the day. My workspace was a former library on the second floor, with original wooden shelves lining the walls and a massive restoration table I'd requested set up in the center. The smell of old wood and linseed oil filled the space. Outside, Lisbon sprawled down toward the Tagus River. All terracotta roofs and washing lines strung between ancient buildings. I started on a Tuesday in late September. The center's operations manager, Paulo, showed me around, gave me keys and security codes, then left me to it. The collection was extensive: 3 large archive boxes of documents, plus 8 paintings in various states of deterioration. I'd be working most evenings and weekends to meet the deadline, but that suited me fine. For the first 2 weeks, I barely saw anyone. I'd arrive at 7 p.m. after the center closed and work until midnight or 1 a.m., just me, the documents, and the particular silence that fills old buildings at night. Not quite quiet, but alive with small sounds, wood settling, wind against windows, the distant hum of the building's heating system kicking on. I was in the middle of separating a packet of letters carefully, with a bone folder and surgical gloves, when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I froze. It was past 11 p.m. The building should have been empty. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Then a knock. "I'm sorry to disturb you." The voice was low, controlled, with a slight rasp to it. "I saw your light on." "I'm Helena Duarte. I'm on the center's board of directors." I stood, peeling off my gloves, and opened the door. The woman standing in the hallway was probably in her mid-40s. Tall and lean, with silver threading through dark hair she wore pulled back in a loose knot. She was dressed simply: black trousers, a charcoal sweater. Minimal jewelry, but there was something striking about her face. High cheekbones, dark eyes, and an expression that seemed to hold both warmth and deep exhaustion. "Clara Mendez," I said, extending my hand. The restorer, her handshake was brief, almost formal. "Yes, I know. I approved your contract." A small smile. I wanted to introduce myself properly. And to apologize, I didn't realize anyone would be here this late. I come sometimes when I can't sleep. The building is quieter at night. I prefer it this way, I admitted. Fewer distractions. She glanced past me into the workspace, her eyes moving across the documents I had spread out on the table. The Berganca collection, may I? I hesitated, then stepped aside. Helena moved into the room with careful attention, not touching anything but clearly taking in every detail. She stopped at the table, looking down at the letters I'd been working on. 18th century, 1790s, I confirmed. Personal correspondence. The ink is badly faded. Can you save them, most of them? Some will require more invasive treatment, she nodded slowly, still looking at the documents. Then she turned to face me, and for just a moment, something flickered across her expression, something raw and unguarded. It's good work you're doing, she said quietly, keeping these voices alive. Then she was gone, footsteps receding down the hallway, leaving me alone with the strange feeling that something had just shifted without me understanding how. She came back 3 nights later. I was working on one of the paintings, this time a portrait of a young woman in 18th century dress. The varnish yellowed and cracked with age. I had my headlamp on, magnifying glass in hand, documenting the damage with photographs before I began the cleaning process. You're here late again, I jumped, nearly dropping the camera. Helena stood in the doorway, holding 2 paper cups. I brought coffee, she said. As an apology for startling you, again, I pulled off my headlamp, suddenly aware that I was wearing my oldest work clothes, paint-stained jeans, and a flannel shirt with a torn elbow. Helena, by contrast, looked like she'd stepped out of an architectural magazine. Tailored navy blazer, silk blouse, leather boots that probably cost more than my monthly rent. You don't have to, I started. I know. But I wanted to. She set 1 cup on the corner of my workspace, carefully away from the painting. I have a terrible habit of working late too. It seems wasteful for both of us to make separate coffee runs. It was such a simple gesture, but something about it felt dangerous. I didn't want company. I didn't want to get to know the people I worked with. I especially didn't want to get to know beautiful, elegant women who made my pulse speed up just by standing in the same room. But I took the coffee anyway. Thank you, I said. Helena moved closer to look at the painting. She didn't hover, she kept a professional distance, but I was intensely aware of her presence. She smelled like something expensive and subtle. Bergamot, maybe something with depth. Who is she? Helena asked, gesturing to the portrait. Catarina de Bragança, a family line. She never married. There's a whole series of letters in the collection about her. Apparently, she was considered quite scandalous. Why scandalous? She refused multiple marriage proposals, lived alone in a villa outside the city, kept the company of artists and writers. I pointed to a detail in the background of the painting barely visible through the damaged varnish. That's another woman, I think, standing in the doorway. The restorer who worked on this before, probably in the 1950s, painted over her. But you can see the ghost of her outline. Helena leaned in, and suddenly she was close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Why would someone paint her out? Because whoever she was, she mattered too much to Catarina. And that was unacceptable. The silence that followed felt weighted. Helena straightened up, her expression unreadable. Will you bring her back? The woman in the doorway. If I can. That's the plan. Good. Helena's voice was soft, almost fierce. She deserves to be seen. My hands were shaking slightly as I set down my coffee cup. This was absurd. We were talking about a painting, about people dead for 2 centuries. There was no reason for my heart to be pounding like this. Helena must have noticed something in my expression because she took a small step back. I should let you work. I'm distracting you. No, I stopped myself. It's fine, but she was already moving toward the door. She paused at the threshold, 1 hand on the frame. Clara? Yes? I'm glad you're the one working on this collection. I think you understand what these stories mean. Then she was gone. and I was left standing in my workspace with cold coffee and a racing heart, wondering what the hell had just happened. Over the next 2 weeks, Helena's late-night visits became a pattern. She'd appear around 11, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just to check in. We'd talk about the collection, about art, about Lisbon. Never anything too personal, but the conversations had a quality of intimacy that felt disproportionate to their content. I started noticing things. The way she'd pause fractionally before entering my workspace, as if gathering herself. The careful distance she maintained, never quite close enough to touch. The way her eyes would linger on my hands when I worked, then quickly look away. And I noticed my own reactions, the anticipation that built as 11 o'clock approached. The disappointment on nights when she didn't come. The way I'd started dressing slightly better for work, even though I told myself it didn't matter. This was dangerous territory. I knew it. But I couldn't seem to stop myself from wanting her to walk through that door one more time. The night everything changed started unremarkably. I was working on a particularly difficult document, a letter so deteriorated that whole sections were missing. The paper brittle as dead leaves. I'd been at it for 3 hours, and my back ached from hunching over the table. Helena arrived at her usual time, but without coffee. She looked tired, more than tired. There were shadows under her eyes I hadn't seen before, and she moved with a careful deliberateness that suggested pain. "Rough day?" I asked. She laughed softly, without humor. Something like that. She pulled over a stool and sat the first time she'd ever stayed longer than a few minutes. "Tell me about what you're working on. I need to think about something that isn't my own life for a while." There was something raw in her voice that made me set down my tools and turn to face her fully. "Are you okay?" Honest answer or polite answer? Honest. Helena looked at me for a long moment. "I have a chronic pain condition, autoimmune. Most days I manage it well enough that no one notices. Today is not one of those days. Should you be here? Don't you need to rest? Take medication? Lie in bed feeling sorry for myself." She shook her head. "I've been doing that all evening. It doesn't help. Being here helps. Your company helps." The admission hung in the air between us. "My company helps." "I don't talk about it much," Helena continued, her voice quieter now. "The condition. People treat you differently when they know. They either become overly solicitous or they start seeing you as fragile, unreliable. Neither is bearable. Why tell me?" "Because you asked honestly." And because she paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "Because I'm tired of pretending I'm invulnerable around you." My throat felt tight. "You don't have to pretend anything around me, don't I?" Helena's dark eyes met mine. "You keep such careful distance. Clara, I've watched you. You're kind, but you're also barricaded. Sometimes I think if I reached out too far, you'd bolt like a deer." She wasn't wrong. The observation was so accurate it felt exposing. I had a bad experience, I heard myself say. At my last position. Someone I worked with, someone senior to me, she blurred boundaries. Made me feel like I couldn't say no without professional consequences. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already into deep Helena's expression-shifted pain, but a different kind. "God, Clara, I'm sorry. It's why I took this contract. Temporary, minimal interaction, working alone, safe, and then I kept showing up. Yes, should I stop?" Helena asked, "Be honest with me. Am I making you uncomfortable?" I should have said yes. It would have been the smart answer, the self-protective answer. Instead, I told the truth. "No, you're making me feel things I didn't think I could feel anymore." That's not the same as uncomfortable. It's just terrifying. Helena exhaled slowly. "I understand terrifying, do you? Clara, I'm 46 years old. I've been on the board of this institution for 8 years. I have a public profile, responsibilities, expectations. And I've been coming to this building at 11 at night for the past month specifically because I can't stop thinking about the woman restoring paintings in the East Wing." She ran a hand through her hair, disturbing the careful knot. "So yes, I understand terrifying. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Helena, You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know that I'm aware of what's happening here. And that I'm scared too. She stood carefully. One hand braced against the table. I should go. I'm probably saying too much. Wait, I stood too, and before I could second-guess myself, I reached out and touched her arm just briefly. Just enough. Stay, please. Tell me more about the condition. Help me understand. Something shifted in her expression. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. She sat back down and she talked about the diagnosis 10 years ago, about the unpredictability of flare-ups, the way pain could turn your own body into an enemy, about the loneliness of managing a chronic condition while maintaining a professional facade, about her ex-partner who had left because she couldn't handle the medical stuff. I listened, asking questions when it seemed right, mostly just bearing witness. And at some point, without planning it, my hand found hers on the table, just resting there, palm to palm. She didn't pull away. We stayed like that until after midnight, talking about everything and nothing, while Lisbon slept around us and something fragile and precious began to grow in the space between who we'd been and who we might become. 3 weeks later, I finished restoring Katarina's portrait. The woman in the doorway was fully visible, Na young, dark-haired. Looking at Katarina with an expression of such tender longing, it made my chest ache. To women, separated by the width of a painted room, connected by a gaze that had survived to centuries of people trying to erase it. Helena stood beside me, looking at the finished painting in silence. She loved her, Helena said finally. Whoever she was. Katarina loved her, yes. Do you think they ever? Helena paused. Do you think they ever told each other? I turned to look at her profile, the elegant line of her jaw, the slight furrow between her brows. I don't know, I hope so, even if it was dangerous. Even if it could have ruined them. Especially then, Helena turned to face me fully. We were standing closer than we usually allowed ourselves. The workspace was dim except for the focus lights on the painting. Everyone else had left hours ago. We were completely alone. Clara, I need to tell you something. My pulse jumped. Okay, I'm not your employer. I want to be clear about that. You were hired by the center's executive director. I'm on the board, I have input, but no direct authority over you. No power to fire you or impact your career. I know that. Do you? Because I've noticed how careful you are around me. How you second-guess yourself. I need you to understand that we're equals in this. Whatever this is, I could barely breathe. Helena, I'm falling for you, she said, voice low and urgent. I've been falling for you since that first night when you talked about keeping voices alive. And I know it's complicated, I know we're in different places in our lives. I know you're still healing from what happened before. I know I'm dealing with health issues that make my future unpredictable. I know there are 100 rational reasons to walk away from this. But I can't. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting. She stopped abruptly, hand pressed to her chest. Helena, alarm shot through me. What's wrong? Nothing, just, she breathed carefully. Just my heart racing. It's fine. Is it the condition? No, it's you. It's this moment. It's finally saying out loud what I've been feeling for weeks. I took her hand, the one pressed to her chest, and held it. Her pulse thrummed against my palm, rapid and strong. I'm falling for you too, I whispered. And it terrifies me. Not because of you, because of me. Because I don't know if I can do this without losing myself again. Then don't lose yourself. Helena's other hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. Stay exactly who you are. That's all I want, just. Let me be close to you while you do. How close? It was barely a question, more like permission. Helena answered by closing the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, her lips against mine, gentle and questioning, like she was learning the shape of me. I kissed her back, hands coming up to rest on her shoulders, and felt her make a small sound in her throat, relief or desire or both, then deeper, her hand sliding into my hair. My arms around her waist, pulling her closer. The taste of her coffee and something sweet. The way she trembled slightly, like she was holding herself together by force of will. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Helena rested her forehead against mine. "Clara Mendez," she said softly, "what are we doing?" "I don't know, something reckless. Something that might hurt us both. Is that going to stop you?" I thought about Katerina and her mysterious lover. About two women who'd loved each other when it was dangerous to do so. Who'd been painted together and then erased. Who'd survived only because someone centuries later cared enough to restore them. "No," I said. "It's not going to stop me." Helena smiled a real smile, bright and unguarded. Then she kissed me again, slower this time, like she was memorizing the moment, like she wanted to savor it. Outside, Lisbon glittered in the darkness. Inside, two women stood in a restored library, holding each other like they were the only solid things in a shifting world. Nothing was resolved. Nothing was certain. But for that moment, we were enough. The first 2 weeks after that kiss existed in a bubble. We were careful we met only late at night when the center was empty. We didn't text more than necessary. We kept our interactions professional during the few times we encountered each other in public settings. But when we were alone, in my workspace or sometimes in Helena's office on the top floor, we let ourselves be real. We talked for hours. Helena told me about growing up in Porto, about studying art history in London, about the slow dissolution of her marriage in her 30s when she finally accepted she'd been trying to fit herself into a shape that wasn't hers. I told her about my conservative family who hadn't spoken to me since I came out at 23, about building a life from scratch with no template, about the confusion of wanting women but not knowing how to trust my own judgment about who was safe. And we kissed God. We kissed. Sometimes urgent and hungry, sometimes achingly slow. I learned the landscape of her body, the sensitive spot below her ear, the way she'd arch into my touch, the soft sounds she'd make when I'd run my hands down her sides. She learned mine to how I'd tense up if things moved too fast, how I needed words and reassurance, how I'd melt completely if she'd simply hold me and stroke my hair. We didn't sleep together. Not fully. We were building something, and we both knew it needed a stronger foundation first. The bubble burst on a Wednesday. I was working during daytime hours for once I'd needed to photograph some documents in natural light when Paulo, the operations manager, stopped by my workspace. "Clara, quick question. Are you and Helena Duarte?" "Close." My stomach dropped. "Why do you ask?" "Because Mariana from the board has been asking questions. Apparently, someone saw Helena leaving the building very late a few weeks ago, around the same time you're usually here, and now Mariana's concerned about inappropriate dynamics and whether the board needs to address it." I felt cold all over. Helena and I are colleagues. She checks on the restoration progress occasionally. That's all. Paulo looked uncomfortable. "Look, I don't care what you do." But Mariana does. She's been looking for reasons to undermine Helena for years, some political thing about the center's direction. If she thinks she can make an issue of this, she will after he left. I sat frozen at my workspace, heart pounding. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. The scrutiny, the judgment. The way private things became public ammunition. My phone buzzed. "Helena, can we talk tonight? Something's come up." When Helena arrived that evening, she looked drawn. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it. "Mariana called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow," she said without preamble. "She's raising concerns about leadership conduct and boundary violations. Someone told her we've been spending time together after hours. I know." Paulo warned me. "Clara, I'm so sorry. I should have been more careful. I should have anticipated. This isn't your fault, isn't it?" Helena laughed bitterly. "I'm the one with the board position. I'm the one who's supposed to know better. And now you're being dragged into center politics that have nothing to do with you." I stood and crossed to her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we need to stop. Pause this, whatever this is. Until your contract is done and you're no longer associated with the center." The words hit me like cold water. "You want to stop seeing me." "I want to protect you." Helena's voice cracked. "I've watched Mariana destroy people. She's vicious. And if she thinks you're my weakness, she come after you. So your solution is to prove her right? To show that what we have is shameful enough that we need to hide it. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Helena? She closed her eyes. I'm saying I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with you and also navigate board politics and also manage my health and also maintain my professional reputation. I'm 4 to 6 years old, Clara. I can't just burn my life down for a relationship that's barely a month old. The word stung. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. So that's it. My voice came out flat. We end this because it's too complicated. I don't want to end it. God, I don't want to end it. But I also can't ask you to weather this storm with me. You've already been hurt by workplace power dynamics. I can't be another person who puts you in that position. You're not giving me a choice, I said quietly. You're deciding for me what I can handle. Just like she did, Helena flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? You're so afraid of hurting me that you're not seeing how much you're hurting me right now. By pushing me away. By treating me like I'm fragile, you are fragile. We both are, then maybe we should be fragile together instead of pretending we're invulnerable. Helena opened her eyes. And I could see tears there. I don't know how to do that, neither do I. But I know I want to try. We stood there, 3 feet apart, an unbridgeable distance opening between us. Finally, Helena spoke. I need to think. I need to get through tomorrow's meeting and figure out what the board is going to do. And then, I don't know. Can you give me a few days? Every instinct screamed at me to say no. To make her choose right now. But I thought about her chronic pain, her professional vulnerability, the weight of everything she was carrying. Okay, I said. A few days. She left without kissing me goodbye. The next week was hell. I threw myself into work, finishing the last of the document restorations ahead of schedule. I didn't hear from Helena. Paulo told me the board meeting had been intense, but that no formal action was taken. Helena had apparently given a statement about her professional conduct that satisfied most members. And without concrete evidence of wrongdoing, Mariana couldn't push further. But the damage was done. The rumors were out there. I could feel people watching me differently when I had to go to the main offices, speculating. On the 8th day, Helena finally texted, I'm sorry, can I see you? She looked terrible when she arrived that night, pale, exhausted, moving stiffly. I had a flare-up, she said, bad one. I've been in bed for 3 days. And you didn't tell me. I didn't think I had the right. After what I said, Helena, let me finish. Please, she took a breath. I was wrong. Not about being scared, I'm still terrified, but about pushing you away. About deciding for both of us that this wasn't worth fighting for. She moved closer. The truth is, lying in bed for 3 days in pain, all I could think about was you. How much I wanted you there. How much I wanted to let you see me like that week and hurting and not put together. I've spent my entire adult life being strong and capable and independent. But with you, I don't want to be any of those things. I just want to be honest. My throat was tight. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. I'm saying I want this, all of it. The complications, the risk, the uncertainty. I want you in my life, and I want to be in yours. And I don't care what Mariana or anyone else thinks. She took my hands. But I need to know that you wanted to. Not just the easy parts. The hard parts. The messy parts. The part where sometimes my body doesn't work and I'm difficult to be around. The part where people judge us. The part where we have to figure out who we are together while also being who we are separately. I looked at this woman, brilliant and vulnerable and brave, and I realized I'd already made my choice. Probably that first night, when she'd appeared in my doorway. Certainly the night we kissed. Definitely every moment since when I'd felt like part of me was missing without her. I want all of it, I said. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. Helena's expression crumbled with relief. Really, really. But Helena, I need something from you to anything. I need you to stop protecting me from your struggles. If you're in pain, tell me. If you're scared, tell me. If you need space, tell me. But don't make choices for us without talking to me first. I need us to be partners, not protector and protected. I can do that, she said. I want to do that. Then we have a deal. She kissed me then soft and deep and full of promise. And when we pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. I have an idea, Helena said. A way to handle Mariana and anyone else who wants to make an issue of this. What? We go public. Not dramatically. Not making a statement. Just stop hiding. Let people see that we're together. That this is real. That we're not ashamed. My stomach fluttered with anxiety. That's terrifying, I know. But I think it's also necessary. For us to prove to ourselves that we're not repeating old patterns. That this is a choice we're both making with open eyes. She was right. I knew she was right. Okay, I said. Let's do it. We started small. The following week, when the center had an opening reception for a new exhibition, Helena invited me as her date. Not her colleague, not the restorer working on the collection. Her date, I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes, heart racing, trying to decide what to wear. This wasn't just an outfit choice, it was a statement. A declaration. Finally, I settled on a dress I'd borrowed from a friend, dark green. Simple but elegant, with a neckline that felt bold without being aggressive. Helena wore black trousers and a silk blouse the color of wine. When I arrived at the entrance, she was waiting for me, and the smile that spread across her face when she saw me made my stomach flip. She didn't hesitate. She walked directly to me, in full view of everyone entering the building, and kissed my cheek in greeting. Her hand found mine, fingers interlacing naturally. You look beautiful, she said, loud enough for nearby people to hear. So do you? Nothing dramatic. Just a clear, undeniable statement. This woman is with me. I felt every eye in the room find us. The slight pause in conversations. The quick glances. Then the longer stares. The whispers that rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. My first instinct was to pull away, to create distance, to protect myself. But Helena's hand was warm and steady in mine, and when I looked at her face, I saw no fear. Only pride, only certainty. So I stayed. Mariana was there, of course, stationed near the wine table like a predator at a watering hole. She watched with narrowed eyes as Helena introduced me to other board members, her hand resting casually on the small of my back. As Helena spoke passionately to a journalist about the center's mission, including me naturally in the conversation, asking my opinion on restoration ethics and artist intent. As we moved through the space together with the easy intimacy of people who knew each other's rhythms, who had shared late nights and difficult conversations and the kind of vulnerability that binds people together. This is Clara Mendez, Helena said to a distinguished older woman I recognized as a major donor. She's the brilliant restorer who saved the Braganca collection. You should see what she did with the Caterina portrait. It's like bringing the dead back to life. How did you two meet? The woman asked, eyes sharp with curiosity. At work, I said simply. Helena came to check on the restoration progress one night. We started talking. We haven't stopped since. Single quotes, the woman smiled. How lovely, my wife and I met at work too. 40 years ago now. People said it wouldn't last. She winked. We outlasted all our critics after she moved away. Helena squeezed my hand. See? Not everyone is Mariana. No, but she's still watching us like we're performing some kind of scandal. Let her watch. I'm done caring what she thinks at one point. Helena excused herself to speak with a major donor who just arrived. And I found myself alone near the bar, nursing a glass of white wine and trying to look like I belonged in rooms like this, rooms full of wealth and influence and people who knew how to navigate both. Mariana materialized beside me like smoke. So you're the restorer, she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. Yes, Helena speaks very highly of your work. I appreciate that. She took a sip of her wine, eyes never leaving my face. Tell me, do you always get this? Involved with your clients. A month ago, even a week ago, I would have wilted under that kind of scrutiny. I would have stammered excuses, felt my face burn with shame, maybe even fled to the bathroom to collect myself. But standing there in my borrowed dress, in a room full of people who might judge me, I realized something fundamental had shifted. I didn't care. Let them judge, let them whisper. I knew what Helena and I had, and it wasn't tawdry or wrong or shameful. It was honest and hard-won and more real than anything I'd experienced before. I turned to face Mariana fully, setting my wine glass down with deliberate care. "Helena isn't my client," I said calmly. "The center hired me through the executive director. Helena is on the board. She has no authority over my employment, my compensation, or my professional opportunities. We're colleagues who happen to also be dating. If you have concerns about ethical boundaries, I suggest you review the center's actual policies rather than making assumptions based on your personal discomfort." Mariana's smile turned sharp, predatory. "How feminist of you. Dating a woman nearly 20 years older who happens to have significant influence in your professional field. Very progressive. How interesting that you assume influence only flows one direction. Maybe consider that Helena sees me as an equal because I am one. Maybe consider that I bring value to her life that has nothing to do with professional advancement." I picked up my wine glass again. "Or maybe just consider minding your own business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I see someone I actually want to talk to." I walked away, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, hands trembling slightly with adrenaline. But my head was high, my spine straight. And when I found Helena watching me from across the room, her expression was pure admiration mixed with something that looked a lot like love. She crossed to me immediately. "What did you say to Mariana?" "She looks like she swallowed glass." The truth, which was that we have nothing to be ashamed of. Helena's eyes went soft. Then, right there in the middle of the reception, surrounded by board members and donors and colleagues, she cupped my face in both hands and kissed me, not chastely, not ambiguously, a real kiss, full of intention and feeling. When we broke apart, the room had gone noticeably quieter. People were definitely staring now. Helena turned to address the crowd, voice carrying clearly. "For anyone wondering, yes, Clara and I are together. Yes, I'm aware of the age difference and the fact that we work in the same institution. No, there are no ethical violations. We've consulted extensively with HR and the board ethics committee. And yes, this is serious. Any questions can be directed to me personally, not to Clara. Thank you." Then she took my hand again and led me toward the exit. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "The reception isn't over. You're supposed to be networking." "I'm choosing you," Helena said simply. "Over networking, over appearances. Over what people think. I'm choosing you." We walked back to her apartment through the narrow streets of Alfama, under amber streetlights and past couples sitting at outdoor cafes. Helena kept my hand in hers the entire way, occasionally bringing it to her lips to kiss my knuckles. Neither of us spoke much. We didn't need to. At her apartment door, she paused before unlocking it. "Are you okay?" "With what just happened?" "Terrified," I admitted. "But also free. Does that make sense?" Perfect sense. That night, we sat on her balcony overlooking the city, drinking wine and talking about everything that had happened. About Mariana's face. About the older woman's story of her 40-year marriage. About what it meant to choose visibility over safety. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "Making that announcement?" Helena considered, "Ask me tomorrow, after I've seen the fallout. But right now, no, I regret all the years I spent hiding parts of myself to make other people comfortable. I don't want to do that anymore, even if it costs you professionally. Even then, though I don't think it will. The center's mission is literally about preserving diverse stories and challenging historical erasure. If they have a problem with their board members living authentically, that's a hypocrisy I'm happy to expose." I leaned my head on her shoulder. "You're kind of badass, you know that." She laughed. "I'm terrified. But I'm terrified with you, which somehow makes it bearable." The exhibition opening was in November, 3 months after I'd started the restoration work. The Braganca collection was displayed beautifully documents in climate-controlled cases lit to prevent further deterioration. The paintings hung with perfect lighting that brought out every detail I'd worked so hard to preserve. But the centerpiece, positioned in its own alcove with dramatic lighting, was Katerina's portrait. She looked magnificent. The colors I'd uncovered glowed with like the deep blue of her dress, the warm amber of the background, and most importantly, the woman in the doorway. No longer a ghost or a shadow, but a full presence. Young, dark-haired, gazing at Katerina with undisguised longing. The placard beside the painting read, "Portrait of Katerina de Braganca 1770 to 1831, artist unknown. Circa 1795, recently restored by Clara Mendes." This portrait originally included a second figure, a woman standing in the doorway who was painted over. During a 1950s restoration, likely due to the implied intimate nature of their relationship. Modern analysis and careful restoration has revealed her once more. While we cannot know the full story of Katerina and this unnamed woman, we honor their presence here together, visible as they should always have been. I stood in front of it during the opening, watching visitors read the placard and study the painting with new understanding. Several people came up to thank me for the restoration work, for revealing what had been hidden. Helena gave a speech about preservation and truth, about how history often erases the lives of women who loved women, but how art has a way of preserving what society tries to destroy. Her voice was strong and clear as she spoke about the importance of visibility, of refusing to allow discomfort or prejudice to dictate what stories get told. Every time we uncover a hidden truth, she said, every time we restore what someone tried to erase, we make a statement about what matters, about who matters. These women mattered, their love mattered. And we have a responsibility to ensure that future generations can see them as they were together, connected, real. I stood in the crowd, watching her speak with such passion and authority, and felt overwhelmed with love and pride. This brilliant, courageous woman who'd chosen to be visible with me, who'd stood beside me in front of Mariana and the board and everyone else who might judge us. After the official program ended, as guests mingled with wine and small talk, Helena's mother approached me. I'd met her twice before, warm, funny, with the same elegant bearing as her daughter. "That was quite a speech," she said. "She's remarkable, she is. And she's happier than I've seen her in years. That's because of you." I felt my throat tighten. "I think it's mutual good, that's how it should be." She squeezed my arm. "Take care of each other. And don't let people like that Mariana woman make you feel small. You belong here just as much as anyone." Afterward, we went back to Helena's apartment, which had become our apartment over the past months, as I'd gradually moved my things in. My clothes hanging beside hers in the closet, my coffee mugs in the kitchen, my books on the shelves, small integrations that added up to a life being built together. We were taking it slowly, being intentional about building something that honored both our needs. Helena had a drawer in the bathroom just for her medications and heating pads. I had a corner of the living room set up as a small workspace for projects I brought home. We'd learned each other's rhythms when Helena needed space during a flare-up, when I needed reassurance after a difficult day. That night, still glowing with the success of the opening, we opened a bottle of champagne on the balcony. To Katerina, Helena said, raising her glass. And to all the women throughout history who loved each other despite everything, and to us, I added. For having the courage to be visible, we clinked glasses and drank, and then Helena set hers down and pulled me close. "I have something to tell you," she said quietly. My stomach clenched. "What?" "The center is offering me a new position, Director of Collections and Programming. It would mean stepping down from the board and taking on a completely different executive role. Helena, that's wonderful, isn't it?" "It is. It's everything I've worked toward. But it would mean longer hours, more travel, more administrative stress. With my condition, I don't know if I can manage it." She paused, not meeting my eyes. "I've been thinking about turning it down." I pulled back to look at her fully. "No, absolutely not. You can't do that. Why not?" "Because this is your dream. Because you're brilliant at this work. Because you've earned it." Helena, you can't give up opportunities because of me. I'm not giving them up because of you," she said, finally looking at me. "I'm making different choices because I finally have someone in my life worth choosing. I want time with you, Clara. I want mornings where we can have coffee together without rushing. I want to be able to rest when I need to without feeling guilty about neglecting work. I want balance, then we'll find balance together. But not by you sacrificing your ambitions." I took her hands. "What if we problem solve this? What would you need to make it work?" We talked for hours, eventually working out a plan. Helena would accept the position but negotiate for a 4-day work week and a strong deputy director who could handle things during her health flare-ups. She'd set clear boundaries about evening and weekend work. She'd prioritize her well-being alongside her career. The center agreed to all of it. 6 months later, I was offered a permanent position as the center's lead conservator. With my own budget, staff, and project autonomy, I said yes. Not because of Helena, though. Having her in my life made Lisbon feel like home in a way I'd never experienced before. But because I'd realized something important. I could be in a relationship with someone at my workplace and still maintain my autonomy, my boundaries, my sense of self. The difference wasn't the situation. It was the respect. Helena and I worked in different departments now. We had separate professional identities. We collaborated when projects overlapped, but we weren't enmeshed. We were two whole people who'd chosen to build something together without losing ourselves in the process. That summer, we took a trip to Porto to spend time with Helena's family. They welcomed me with open arms, her mother teaching me family recipes, her brother teasing Helena mercilessly about being smitten, her teenage niece asking me earnest questions about art restoration and what it was like to be gay. On our last evening there, Helena's mother pulled me aside while we were doing dishes. "You're good for her," she said. "She seems lighter. More herself. She's good for me too," I admitted. "That's how it should be, equal. Balanced." She handed me a dish to dry. Her father and I worried after the divorce, after the diagnosis. We thought maybe she'd close herself off. But then you came along, and she opened back up. "So thank you. I'm the lucky one," I said, and meant it. A year after that first kiss in my workspace, we hosted a dinner party at our apartment, definitively our apartment now. Decorated with pieces from both our lives, filled with plants Helena tended and art I'd collected and books we both loved. Paulo came, along with several colleagues from the center and some of Helena's friends from her board days. Even some of my old university friends made the trip to Lisbon. We'd invited Mariana as an olive branch, though she declined with a curt response. I cooked something I discovered I enjoyed, especially cooking for people I loved. Helena moved through our home greeting guests, pouring wine, making everyone comfortable. At one point, I paused in the kitchen doorway just to watch her laugh at something Paulo said, her whole face bright with joy. This was our life. These were our people. This was the home we'd built together. Later, as I was refilling wine glasses in the kitchen, Helena wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Thank you," she murmured against my neck. "For what? For not running. For staying, for building this with me. For believing we were worth fighting for." I turned in her arms. "Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with the hard parts. For showing me what love looks like when it's built on respect always," she said, and kissed me. Through the window, I could see our friends on the balcony, laughing and talking under string lights we'd hung together. I could hear music playing from the speaker, smell the lemon cake finishing in the oven, feel the solid warmth of Helena's body against mine. This wasn't a perfect life. Helena still had difficult days with her conditioned mornings when pain kept her in bed. Evenings when fatigue meant she could barely speak. I still sometimes struggled with old fears, with the impulse to pull away when things felt too good, too vulnerable. We argued sometimes, disagreed about money and schedules and whose turn it was to do laundry, but it was our life. Built on honesty, respect, and the courage to keep choosing each other even when it was hard. Built on late-night conversations and morning coffee and the 1,000 small acts of care that add up to love. Before we rejoined our guests, Helena pulled out her phone. One more thing. I want to remember this moment. She took a selfie of us in the kitchen, her arms around my waist, my head on her shoulder, both of us smiling like we'd just been told a wonderful secret. Perfect, she said, showing me the photo. That's going on the fridge, and it did. Right next to photos of her family, invitations to upcoming exhibitions, a grocery list in my handwriting, and a postcard from Katarina's portrait that the center had made. To women, visible and together, then and now. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us.